Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Very exciting show. We are the only live stream pre-race program on the air on YouTube, so be sure to comment in the chat room. Special hello to everyone on the Ultimate Sports Radio Network. Joe Santiago here, Adam Lemerise, and Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish. We have NASCAR racing tonight, possibly at Martinsville, and Formula E Sunday. But first, we're going to start with the recap of the Formula E race that just concluded a little under an hour ago. So it's definitely still everyone's talking about it. The race came to not exactly the most exciting conclusion, ended with the safety car out. Essentially, Lucas de Vries was leading during the closing minutes of the race. A drivetrain failure that took him out as he was slowing down. The two Jaguars got around. Jean-Eric Vergne, the leader, got around. But when the Mercedes were coming around, Stoffel Van Dorn hit a bump where there was a manhole cover. Lost control, hit the outside wall, collected his teammate and points leader, Nyck de Vries, ending both of their days. Both of them from the points to not finishing in points. Thankfully, both drivers were okay. Lucas de Vries was done for the day as well. But this meant Jean-Eric Vergne took the win. Sam Bird second, and Mitch Evans completes a Jaguar 2-3 on the podium. First time for that team. And overall, a lot of people are talking about the big thing. And of course, people are talking about Sam Bird. He started 10th, came up. If we had a little bit more racing time, especially that full course yellow ended, some people were talking about he was looking really fast. Is Jaguar looking a lot better compared to the end of last year? And do you feel they're the real deal?
Oh, Joe, Jaguar is looking really good to start off the 2021 Formula One season. I remember last year when Formula One returned to Berlin to conclude the season. A lot of us were wondering about Sam Bird's decision to sign with Jaguar. We're like, oh goodness, Sam Bird has just made a bad move. Jaguars started off the 2020 season looking good, and then it got to Berlin, and it seemed like things were going downhill with the program. We thought, wow, Sam Bird might have just dropped the ball with this decision. And now, seeing how Jaguars running at the moment, it looks like Sam Bird made a really smart decision, and Jaguar could very well be for real. And one of the things that's really surprised me so far is like, where's the defending series champion Antonio Felix da Costa?
Yeah, it's called. Sam Bird had one great race in Rome earlier today. I thought if there was a little more time, I believe he would have found a way to catch Jean-Eric Vergne and win. That was a really competitive race, and if it wasn't for the full course caution because of the crash, I believe it would have been. You could have seen a Jaguar racing 1-2 instead of a 2-3.
Really good point, especially potentially a Jaguar 1-2. Of course, that full course caution changed everything in the race, essentially bring the race to an end. But definitely we saw the top four were really close. Then, of course, once the two Jaguars got there, the top six were really bumper to bumper. Good point you bring out, Kobe, especially DS Yoshida. They weren't the dominant team like we've seen in the past where they get the lead, pull away. Usually Yoshida 1-2 finish. They were just right there. And of course, we had Audi. It was a really action-packed event. Of course, both Jaguars, they started way in the back, 11th and 10th. They got around the Mercedes. Sam Bird, an impressive pass on Nyck de Vries. Of course, climbing up the field. DS Yoshida, as I mentioned, they didn't look that dominant. They were up there, and Antonio Felix da Costa, nowhere, no points scored. This is just looking like typical Formula E, as a lot of folks say. 20 drivers out of 24 drivers in the entire field have already scored points, and we're only 3 races in the season. Adam, is it too early to see a championship favorite in Formula E?
No, I know there's a lot more action to come later on in the year, so I think once we get toward the middle half of the season, I believe we'll find out who will become the Formula E champion. But it's like in motorsports, anything can happen on any given day. So don't be surprised if you see Antonio Felix da Costa find a way to score some points and contend for a championship as the season goes along.
Yeah, Adam, it's still really early in the season. Wow, 20 out of 24 drivers scored points. It just shows the great parity that we've seen in Formula E's short history so far. And it's really competitive out there right now. I can't really say for sure who is going to be a championship favorite because there's just so many contenders from top to bottom throughout the grid.
When it comes to championship favorites, early is looking like maybe it's going to be the Jaguar drivers and possibly Nyck de Vries. Stoffel Van Dorn, I feel, just seems to be a little bit more inconsistent. But this is Formula E. That could just seem to change. Last year, it seemed prior to the pandemic, Jaguar was looking strong. We come back for the 6 races in Berlin. They were nowhere in sight. How do we not know that's not going to happen a couple weeks down the road when we leave Rome for the next race, April 24th and the 25th? Way too early, but right now it looks like there's at least 2 teams that are vying for the top spot. However, tomorrow, Group 1 qualifying. Of course, Group 1, that is the first group out of qualifying. Worst track conditions. You're going to have Sam Burke, Robert Fringe, Nyck de Vries, Mitch Evans, John Eric Byrne, and Rene Rast. The top 6 in points, they go out. They're going to have the disadvantage of going on a dirty track, little grip. And of course, the teams lower in the point standings, they go out later. So we get always these very exciting lineups. When it comes to Group 1, especially Sam Burke, Robert Fringe, Nyck de Vries, Mitch Evans, John Eric Byrne, Rene Rast as well. Out of those drivers, who do you think is most likely to be starting up ahead the most in the grid?
Oh, I think it's going to be really close between the two Jaguars of Sam Burke, Mitch Evans, and Nyck de Vries. I think Nyck de Vries is going to be one of the contenders for the championship this season. But unfortunately, what happened today, a little minor setback. But if I had to pick between him and the Jaguars, I'd go with one of the Jaguars driver, and that driver would be Sam Burke.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with you, Kobe. Those Jaguars look really tough in Rome, and I believe Sam Bird will be a contender, at least for a top 5 starting spot in the first race tomorrow in Rome.
Jaguars are looking tough. One of the things I'm really going to be looking at, Nyck de Vries. Of course, he started in the top 10 today. Big thing, go out there and qualify, get in that good lap. Just try to be ahead of the Jaguars. I think the Mercedes, particularly with Nyck de Vries, might have that a little bit of an upper hand. If that happens, we saw what Sam Burke did to Nyck de Vries today. A beautiful pass to get around him. Then Mitch Evans, a bold pass to get around him. Nyck de Vries, if he gets to qualify up ahead of the Jaguars, which I think he could do, big thing is keeping them behind in the race. That's going to be really hard. Now, one of the big things we saw, of course, Lucas di Grassi. Last year was a pretty hard year for him. Winless. Audi, they're not the strongest shape as they are, and in fact, they're on their way out. They're leaving after the season. Does Lucas di Grassi respond with another strong run, or do you feel this is just one of those, you had a really good run, next race, just because of the nature of Formula E, we may not see him up towards the front?
I think Lucas di Grassi will be in at least a contender for the championship. He's in a really good car. He's in an Audi. But I think going down the road, you'll see him and his teammate vying for wins as the Formula E season continues in the next couple weeks.
Tomorrow, I think Lucas di Grassi is going to respond with another strong drive, and instead of heartbreak, Lucas is going to redeem himself, and he's going to have some momentum heading into the next round.
I see Lucas di Grassi, especially he's going to be, I believe, Group 5 qualifying. So he's going to be second to last group. If he can put down another good lap like he did today in qualifying and be in that top 4, I could see him racing within the top 5, top 6. The big thing, of course, this race early on, we saw the leaders, Andre Lauderer and Stoffel Van Dorn, the pole sitter, take each other out. That allowed Lucas di Grassi to get the lead. That kept him up front until the problems we saw with the drivetrain. Overall, it was just a really amazing race. We had weather issues, a safety car start. Usually those aren't exciting, but we still had an exciting lap of racing ahead, especially with the collision between the top 2. Formula E is, of course, one of the most unpredictable series. Still a lot of beating and banging. Tomorrow, race 4, the 4th race of the year, is Formula E. And especially with everything we're seeing this year, and of course, MotoGP being very competitive, is Formula E the hardest series to pick a winner?
As I said, Joe, there's a lot of parity in Formula E. I mean, I can't really think of one racing series that has so much parity. Maybe with the exception of NASCAR this year, looking to go 8 different winners in 8 races. But overall, Formula E, and considering its short history, oh my goodness, I always have such a hard time picking a winner for these events because it seems like there's like 12, 13, 14 drivers who could potentially win on any given weekend.
I'll have to agree with you, Kobe. Formula E is becoming a very competitive series. I mean, you have drivers who have competed in other forms of motorsports throughout the years, like in sports cars, in other formula sanctions. It's truly hard to pick a winner for this series. It's so competitive, and I think it'll be a competitive series as the years continue.
It is staying very competitive. I think when it comes to pick a winner, it is one of the hardest. By MotoGP, NASCAR, I feel it's very much, we do have the parity, but of course we have 8 different winners. Pick a winner segments, of course, we have a tie with 3 wins each, so it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen later on the show when we all do our pick winners for the 4th race of Formula E. And we do want to urge everyone in the chat room to be sure to participate. A big hello back to our viewers out there that are watching, and be sure to share your questions and comments. We'll try our best to share them online and try to answer your questions. Now, here's a special update from Daniel from Racer the Girls Behind the Helmet, and he is reporting from Monza.
Good evening, everyone, from the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. We are here to follow the first round of the Ferrari Challenge Europe season, which is starting here at the Italian venue. We are here following Michelle Gatting for the Iron Dames team. She is racing for the first year this year full-time in the Ferrari Challenge. Today she had the first 2 sessions in free practice, and she was P3 at the end of the afternoon session. She also had a couple of issues. She was not super happy with braking at the beginning of the session. Then she finally fixed what seems to be the problem. Now she's a lot more happy with it, and she will be back strong tomorrow for the first qualifying and first race of the Pirelli Trofeo.
Appreciate the update there, Daniel. The NASCAR Cup Series arrives at Martinsville Speedway for the first Saturday night race of 2021, and we'll see if it remains a Saturday night race, because I know we got some potential weather in the area tonight. I know Jill will touch on that a little bit later in the program. It's the first time Martinsville is going to be hosting a Saturday night event, a cup race, and last year the race was held on a Wednesday night, rescheduled in the summertime due to the pandemic. That race was won by Martin Truex Jr., who has already won a race this year at Phoenix Raceway. Will we see a repeat winner or an 8 different winner of 2021? It's really crazy that we could have 8 different winners in 8 races.
I think Martinsville is a wild card track because it's also a short track. So I think overall, I believe we will see a repeat winner this year. You have so many good contenders who have started their careers on short tracks, and it's going to be a very exciting race. I know there will be fans in the stands there, so it should be a very competitive race. Hopefully tonight in Martinsville.
I do see a very competitive race. I do think we'll see another different winner. Look at some of the drivers that haven't won yet so far this year. Denny Hamlin, he could win out there. Brad Keselowski, he could go out there and get a win. When it comes to Hendrick Motorsports, that's another team that's looking really strong. Of course, Alex Bowman will be the one driver that, if it gets a win, will have essentially the different winner. Now, we do got to come in the chat from Alonso, hoping to see 23-11. Yeah, have a strong showing out there. this is definitely a good track for Bubba Wallace because last year Bubba Wallace ended his event when it was held much later in the year due to the pandemic. On a Wednesday night, he had that Black Lives Matter car. Definitely it will be interesting to see how Bubba will do now at Toyota, but I do see the potential for a different winner.
Yeah, I think we could potentially see a repeat winner, but I also think the possibility is high that we could see an eight different winner. And Alonso brings up a good point there in the chat, by Bubba Wallace. But Martinsville is typically a track that Bubba Wallace runs well at, and now he's going to be in much better equipment. 2311 racing. Could Bubba Wallace become the 8th different winner of 2021? The front row consists of 2 drivers that have won at Martinsville Speedway. Joey Logano got an important playoff win here, which allowed him to grab his first career Cup Series championship. Alongside Logano is Denny Hamlin, the Virginia native. He's having a great start to the season, but still hasn't broke through to get a win yet. Considering Hamlin's consistency and strong finishes, is there any additional pressure on getting the win?
Right now, at this stage of the season, I don't see any additional pressure for Denny Hamlin. He's running a good, solid year so far, leading the drivers in the points. The consistency he's showing is really good, especially NASCAR. So many races this year, and of course, the regular season. If you have that consistency, you're going to get into the playoffs. I will say, though, once we get to the 10th race of the season, he needs to start looking at trying to get those wins, getting more stage points. Those stage points, those wins, that get you playoff points. And with those playoff points, we saw how they're very critical advance to the next round. So right now, he's in a good spot. But if we're still seeing the same performance much later in the year, even though he might be really good in the point stand in the playoffs, that could spell trouble.
Like I said earlier, there will be fans in the stands of Martinsville, and I think Denny Hamlin will have that advantage. He is from Virginia, so he could have a strong showing in front of his home state fans. I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes, wins, or has a top 5 finish. Joe Gibbs Racing always has had a lot of strong success at Martinsville, so Denny Hamlin will be a driver to watch in Martinsville.
Definitely, he'll be a driver to watch. Denny Hamlin leads all active drivers with 5 wins at Martinsville. In total, 9 past winners at Martinsville racing tonight, including Kevin Harvick. In the playoffs last year, this track is where he went from the championship forward to out. Since then, he hasn't been a true contender on track, and it hasn't been the start to 2021 that he's been looking for. And Stewart-Haas racing as a whole has been struggling, and not really the Stewart-Haas racing that we know. Do you think this is going to change tonight at Martinsville? And Joe, what's the weather forecast looking like?
Well, definitely when it comes to the weather, it's not looking that great. Taking a look at it right now, we see once we get later in the evening, the chances of rain goes up tremendously. It's not looking good at all. We know yesterday's race was rained out. That's going to be tomorrow for the Xfinity Series. So overall, it doesn't look that great. And it's just one of those deals where we know Kyle Larson tested a damp tire not too long ago here in Martinsville. If we get this kind of weather, even with a damp tire, I don't know if we're going to get racing. Hopefully, something happens where we could get the race in. So when it comes to Kevin Harvick, will his luck change it? Martinsville is a good track to make your luck change. You don't have to worry about the aerodynamics. You don't have to worry about horsepower. You do need a good handling car, and that's what Kevin Harvick was lacking the last time. Car was not handling. He would just fall back, not competitive. If he has a competitive car, he could make the luck change, get that win, be the 8th divisional winner, secure himself in the playoffs, and that could really change the trajectory of the season. But he needs that good handling car.
And one other thing, Joe, you need really good brakes at Martinsville, and I believe Kevin Harvick is due for a win. He hasn't had the success this year like in previous years, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see Kevin Harvick in the top 5 at Martinsville, or even contending for the win with less than 10 laps to go. It should be a great race for the fans. It's a wild card race, and everybody's going to be hunting that grandfather clock trophy at Martinsville, which goes to the winner every time.
You definitely bring up an excellent point there, Adam, about the brakes. Everyone who's familiar with Martinsville knows that you need to make sure your brakes are working for all 500 laps at the paper cut, because if you have a brake failure, we've seen in the past, it can get ugly. I remember that crash between Martin Truex Jr. and Casey Cannon. I believe it might have been maybe, I think, 2011. Brake failure, really hard crash. You definitely want to make sure your brakes are working, or it could get hairy really fast. And one team that's running well and leads all teams with wins at Martinsville is Hendrick Motorsports. Well, we know all about the wins there between Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. They have 25 wins. Hendrick Motorsports. Second is Petty with 19, and Junior Johnson third with 12 wins. Joe Gibbs Racing is the next active team with 11 wins, fourth overall. We've talked about the big three teams of Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, and Team Penske. Does any other team besides those three stand a chance at winning?
I do see a couple other teams stand a chance of winning, especially when it comes to the satellite teams. 2311, as Alonso in the chat room had brought up. I think Matt Benedetto with the Wood brothers, they seem to be doing pretty good at this track. Same combination as last year. I wouldn't be surprised to see them towards front. And of course, got to talk about Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ryan Preece. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. started in the top 10 after a strong run at Bristol. Ryan Preece, a short track racer. I will not be surprised to see them contending up front, and especially with Ricky Stenhouse, a good clean race. I could see him potentially being a big time spoiler winner.
I think you'll have to keep an eye on the number 21 car with Matt DiBenedetto behind the wheel. It's Wood Brothers Racing is from Stewart, Virginia. And if they won at Martinsville, that crowd would go intensely crazy. They haven't had a lot of success in recent years. I believe the last win for them was with Trevor Bayne in the Daytona 500. So if the Wood Brothers won in Martinsville, that would be a really cool story in NASCAR.
I'm actually taking the opposite stance of you guys. I actually think it's going to be someone from the big three teams from Hendrick, Gibbs, or Penske winning. I don't really see someone else winning tonight in Martinsville if we go racing and Mother Nature blesses us. But definitely, I do think that the Wood Brothers 2311 Martinsville could be a great opportunity for them to get out there, still a win, earn a playoff berth. And Martinsville does kick off a string of intense races for the remainder of the month of April. The next race is at Richmond Raceway, and then the track, one of the biggest, baddest tracks in all of NASCAR, Talladega Super Speedway, is going to close out the month. Is this the best opportunity for someone to surprise us with the win?
The answer to your question, Kobe, is yes, especially when we go to Talladega. As we all know, Talladega can surprise everyone. It's a track where anybody can win, will win, and Talladega is a track where anything can happen, will happen, and usually does happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a surprise winner at Talladega. But for Richmond, that may be hard. You have a lot of guys who are successful on the short tracks, so it should be a really good race in the next couple of weeks.
You bring up a really great point with Richmond. Richmond is a short track, but I do feel there are some drivers out there when we come to Richmond that are seen as the favorites, and I think the big three teams especially potentially could be out there vying for the win. Talladega, it's almost more of a surprise when you see a driver like Denny Hamlin win. It shouldn't be a surprise. Denny Hamlin, of course, won last year in the playoffs at Talladega. But just the unpredictable nature of that race, it almost seems predictable that you will have a surprise winner. And of course, that surprise winner get the win at Talladega, you're in the playoffs. So it's really going to be a really great month of April. This is the one month where I know teams say to go week by week, but they really have to look at these three races like, hey, Martinsville, we could try to get a surprise win. Richmond, a good race. Talladega, go for that win.
Speaking of Denny Hamlin, I think these next three races could be excellent opportunities for him to roll off three in a row if possible. We all know how good he is at Martinsville, Richmond as well, and then in Talladega, another super speedway. I think Denny Hamlin is one of the best super speedway racers that we have currently racing today in NASCAR. So I definitely think that these are great opportunities for Denny to go to victory lane. And going back to tonight's race, this race in Martinsville, the spring race, has always had a lot of cautions, usually over 5 cautions, even upwards to 12 to 16 caution flag periods. What does it take for a driver to survive and put themselves in a position to win, especially since this is a long race, 500 laps at a short track like Martinsville Speedway?
For Martinsville, to be in a position to win, staying up front, keeping your car clean. When it comes to pit strategy, since we have so many caution flags, you don't have to worry about, okay, trying to make aggressive move strategy-wise. Because there's so many caution flags, I feel most of the time, if the tires are going, you're going to have to make that pit stop. The one-time pit strategy may come an issue. If we get 2 cautions late in the race, then it becomes a question of how many cars are going to stay out, and if you do pit, how many positions you'll lose. What's really going to be interesting too, the choose cone rule. That lower line is really good in the restarts. It's a lot to handle, and I think it's going to be really challenging for all the drivers.
You bring up a lot of good points, Joe. Martinsville is usually a track where you need really good brakes, a really good pit strategy, and I believe if you're starting in the top, at least top 15, you have a really good shot to win. And as long as you don't really damage your car a lot, and trying to go around all the lap cars, you have a really good chance to win. We haven't seen a lot. There will be a lot of cautions in the race, usually between 12 and 15 cautions. So it's going to be a very competitive race at Martinsville later tonight.
Yes, it should be competitive, and race coverage gets underway tonight at Martinsville Speedway on FS1, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, radio broadcast on the Ultimate Sports Radio Network. This race counts towards the Grid Ranking and Grid World Motorsport League, both led by Supercars racer Shane Van Gisbergen. And Adam, we discussed Shane's incredible start to the 2021 Repco Supercar Series season. How likely is he to dominate the entire season, and can anyone out there stop him?
It's going to be hard for someone to stop Shane Van Gisbergen right now in the Repco Supercar Series. He is on a really dominant streak. Going back to last year when he won the season finale at Bathurst, I don't see anyone trying to compete with him for the championship, not even his teammate JB Whincup. But the next time the Supercars are on track is next weekend in Tasmania. It should be it should be some really good action, and I want to let the viewers know that we will let you know on all the Supercars news from Tasmania next weekend here on the Grid Grid pre-race show.
You bring up a good point, definitely for our Grid Network subscribers, and for those watching and haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe because next weekend, a busy weekend for a Grid Live pre-race. And of course, it will be a busy weekend for the Grid World Motorsport League, in which Shane Van Gisbergen does continue to lead. Not a whole lot of changes going on. The big thing, of course, NASCAR, they've been going, but with that inconsistency we're seeing in the top 3, we're not seeing anybody really come towards the front, where some of these racers, they've done the minimum 3 races and they're still waiting for that next race. Now, it's very similar in the grid ranking. Of course, entering this weekend, Nyck de Vries was in 6th place with today's race and his eventual DNF. It'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow, where he comes out in the standing. This highly will encourage the chances of World Rally Championship drivers, all 5 of them remaining in the top 10. This has never happened, but of course, we've had a really weird situation where with the pandemic, Formula One's not scored yet, IndyCar hasn't been scored yet. But as the season progresses on and all the racing series do continue, we will see a grid ranking, at least the ranking part, work out, so where we'll do see a more accurate reflection on everyone's strengths and weaknesses. It's going to be really interesting to see everything. Now it's time for just about everyone's favorite part and the hardest part, especially for Formula E, pick a winner.
Yeah, to all of our viewers out there, please share with us who you think will win each race. And we currently have a three-way tie for the lead between Matt, Joe, and myself, and I'm gonna try to pick the correct winner so I can defend my crown and go back to back when the pick a winner standings. And starting with the Cup race at Martinsville, Adam, who do you think's gonna win?
Well, I've been going through this a lot in my head, but I think overall, you will see your repeat winner this year for the first time this year. And I'm going to go with the driver whose sponsor is based in Lynchburg, Virginia, and that's Liberty University. I'm going with William Byron, driver of the number 24 Liberty University Chevrolet Monte Carlo for Hendrick Motorsports, to come out on top in the blue EMU Maximum 500 at Martinsville.
And I'm gonna go with the 8 different winner and 8 different races, and it's gonna be Virginia native Denny Hamlin getting the win.
I'm also going with the 8th different winner, but I'm going to go with the number 2, Brad Keselowski. I think he's going to get that win in Martinsville, possibly tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely with the weather playing a factor. It could be tonight, could be tomorrow. We'll definitely keep you updated here on the Grid Network. See right there, weather forecast. As the day goes on, it doesn't look good. And I'm located in Reesville, North Carolina, which is about 45 minutes away from Martinsville Speedway. And we saw last night with the NASCAR Xfinity Series race, there was a lot of storms here and also storms up there as well. So like whatever the weather is in Martinsville is probably gonna be happening here with me, and I'll definitely keep you updated on Twitter. You can follow me at Kobe Lambert. And tomorrow is the second part of the Formula E doubleheader weekend in Rome. And starting with you, Joe, who you got winning?
Oh man, Formula E, it looks really hard. I'm gonna go with the driver that I think they're not gonna be in Group 1, and they need to have a good race. I'm gonna go with Stoffel Van Dorn. If he could stay out of trouble, we saw him up front, but then that crash early on put him in the back. He worked his way to the front. Then, of course, the Lucas Degrassi miss ended his race. If he could have a good, solid qualifying again, maybe even pull again, avoid the trouble, I think he's going to go win that race.
And I'm going to go with the driver who experienced heartbreak today, and he's going to get redemption. Is going to be the driver from Audi, Lucas Degrassi.
Well, for my pick for Formula E, I'm going to have to go with the driver who's in the Group 1 qualifying, had a really good shot to win race 1. I'm going to go with Sam Bird, driving the Jaguar.
That's a great pick right there, Adam. And usually we give a preview of the Xfinity race. Last night the race got started and put on hold due to pop-up thunderstorms. We made it to lap 91 out of 250 with Brandon Jones leading before the red flag came out. NASCAR waited as late as they could to get the show in, but Mother Nature prevailed once again. The remainder of the Cookout 250 got postponed until Sunday at noon Eastern on FS1. You can comment or share your picks on our Twitter at Grid Ranking and TikTok at Grid Network as well. And a special thank you to all of our new subscribers on YouTube. We're approaching 175 subscribers, so 2 more until we hit 175, currently at 173.
173, really exciting. And then, of course, Humperdinck sharing his Formula E pick. No idea, too hard, but Hamlin for Martinsville. So definitely we encourage everyone in the chat room, share your picks before we go off the air, because it's definitely going to be really fun all year long. Pick a winner. And of course, we encourage everyone, visit Patreon, join Colin and keeping us on the air. We're going to be continuing coverage all year long, including next weekend's race. It's going to be really fun, all the racing, but definitely subscribe to Patreon. You get our annual report. We give you some additional access, including early release of uploaded videos, and your investment, you'll be updated on where your money is going to help the grid grow. We're very transparent, and we invite everyone. The link is in our YouTube, as well as on our website, gridranking.com. And if you have a furry buddy, be sure to get them goodies from Publis, 10% discount for all Grid Network viewers. And of course, a portion of each sale goes to our helping homeless, sick, and rescue dogs. The Grid office dog, Kiska, is a rescue dog, so this is something we care about as well as an organization. Publis matches that. So we're definitely excited to continue our partnership with them. And of course, as Cody mentioned, be sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Grid World Motorsport League, as well at Grid_WML, and definitely the Grid Ranking at Grid Ranking on Twitter. Very exciting race weekend overall. Now, Adam, I know there's a special birthday message you want to share to everybody.
That's right. Today's a very special day for a NASCAR Hall of Famer. He's a former broadcaster, and you usually saw him when CBS had the Daytona 500. So on behalf of everyone here at the Grid Network, we want to wish a happy birthday to NASCAR Hall of Famer Ken Squire. He was the voice of the Daytona 500 for many years, so hopefully he's doing well in his home state of Vermont.
As you said, happy birthday to him from everyone at the Grid Network. For Adam Lemeries, Kobe Lammers from the Podium Finish, I'm Joe Sandiego. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the races, and we'll see you next time for Grid Life Wrap-Up. Joe Samaniego here. Want to invite you to go check out Publis. Publis is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our Grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out Publis.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well.